Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this next of our See the Triumph Survivors Triumphing video series. My name's Christine Murray. I'm one of the co-founders of See the Triumph, and we're glad you're here today to check out this video. Our featured speaker today is somebody who's been connected with the See the Triumph campaign. We first connected many years ago. I think she wrote a few blog posts for us, but more than anything, we've just been really excited to see her journey and learn about a lot of the different advocacy efforts that she's been doing for the past several years. So I know you're going to enjoy hearing her story and learning from her today. So welcome, Quasona. Welcome, and thanks for being here today. And if you could just share a little bit of an introduction and background about yourself, what you'd like people to know.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. My name is Quasona Oliver, and I am a 10-year teen dating violence survivor. And I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a triumpher, I am a business person, I'm everything that I've always wanted to be. I've been doing this advocacy work now for the last 10 years, and it has been very much rewarding for me, as it has been, to know the impact that I've made on other survivors, on people who are still in their violent situations and relationships, as well as the advocacy network. So I'm really happy to be here today.
Thanks. That's great. A great introduction to yourself. And so you mentioned the journey of surviving from teen dating violence has been a long one for you, since you said it's been 10 years. So what does it mean to you to triumph over abuse?
I mean, to triumph over abuse means to rebuild your life, rebuild the life that you've always wanted for yourself, the life that you deserved. And it's all of that self-work, that self-love work that I've been doing over the last 10 years, and reminding myself how far that I've come and things that I want to work on, and goal setting. I'm worthy of love. I'm married now. It's been 2 years. I have a son who's amazing. Just rebuilding the life that I wanted and I deserved, and knowing that there was so much more out there for me, and knowing that I could survive and live beyond that mental trap of being in that abusive relationship.
What are some of the aspects of that journey that have been the most empowering for you?
It's empowering, definitely my advocacy work. A lot of therapy. I would say therapy is maybe number two, because the advocacy work was part of therapy one for me. And learning a lot about myself through both of those channels. Um, you know, when you spend your time inside of a violent relationship, mental and emotional abuse, um, you don't really know who you are. There's so much that's taken away from you mentally. You've lived in this construct of the abuser's world, and really relearning yourself. I mean, I used to take myself out to dinner once a week just to have that one-on-one time and reflect on the things that had happened in the past week. So yeah, for me, the top three things would be my advocacy work, um, definitely going to therapy and finding the right therapist that was for me, and to work on the things that I needed to work on in that realm. And the third one was definitely rediscovering who Quasona is as a person, and getting to know myself and the things that I like, and date myself.
So I want to ask more about your advocacy work, but before that, you said that that relationship ended in December of 2010. So that means you would have just passed a really pretty significant milestone of 10 years. Was that something that stood out to you, or how did that feel to kind of reach the 10-year mark?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have many celebrations in my mind for myself. um, it's not a date that I mark on the calendar. It was just like so much behind when I left that situation. A lot of violence, and it was a very dangerous situation to even leave when I did. But so there's not like a grand party, but I keep that date in mind. And I look at the calendar and I say, oh, this is it. And to me, it felt very good to pass that 10-year mark.
So, how did you decide to first start telling your story?
So when I first started telling my story, it was maybe 4 or 5 months right after being in after leaving the violent relationship. At that time, I was already in therapy twice a week, and so I was working on, a lot of the emotional things that I had gone through, in that part of the healing process. And I had a really close friend, my best friend, got me in touch with a one of the editors at Glamour magazine. They were doing a piece on relationship abuse, and it was relationship abuse, the secret that kills 1 in 4 women. And at the time, I was very nervous about doing this. There was a lot of details that I felt would come out that I don't know if I was necessarily comfortable with sharing with family and friends, and my colleagues. So that was a bit challenging. As I started having conversations with the writer and editors, um, you know, I started to feel a level of comfort. And then there was a point where I pulled back completely. And so they invited me into the studio and they were like, come in, well, let's chat in person. There's like an online component. And I was like, oh, great. My face attached to this, this horrific story. So I went in, they took a couple of headshots and they showed me, the layout of what they were doing. And I was like, okay, so, what about the other survivors and things like that? And they were like, out of the 20 women that were participating in this story, you're like a handful of the women that actually survived. And I think hearing that for me was very frightening, because we were all around the same age, right? We're all 21. Every 21, you're like finishing college, starting your career, and you're ready to, like, take on life. And just to hear that a lot of them had their lives cut so short, that left an everlasting impact on me. And from that day forward, you could not stop me from the DV circuit. So
And
that's
how did people respond? People, whether it was coworkers or your friends or family, were they more supportive than you thought, less?
I mean, it was actually a very positive response. There were, like, coworkers were coming up to me with the magazine. We had a watch party in one of our conference rooms
Oh,
for a
wow.
little snippet that I did. Yeah. At the time, I was in HR, working with HR, at the company I was with, and we had a watch party in our small conference room with my team and the VP of HR, who was extremely supportive throughout the entire process. um, and it was just, it felt good to see that I did have that support network, that I didn't necessarily think that I had. When you're in an abusive relationship, you're isolated mentally and emotionally, and sometimes physically, and so you don't really realize that your friends, your colleagues, your family that you were so scared to confide in are actually there for support. And so it felt great, and it really aided the healing process for me to know that I had such a strong network.
So, what would you most like other survivors to know about the process of healing from an abusive relationship?
When I think of healing from an abusive relationship and the 10-year journey that I've been on, um, there's not a one size fits all. You will grieve, you will be afraid, you will have memories. You'll feel so happy and relieved some days. Um, there's not a one size fits all. Um, I would definitely say take your time. Um, you'll see your network ebb and flow. Whether people come and go, they may not understand the transformation that you're making, what that journey is like if they haven't been on it. Stay honest to yourself. Check in with those trusted loved ones that you have, whatever that network looks like for you, that supportive, healthy network, whatever that looks like for you. Check in with them. Journaling helped. Just really just really thinking about what you feel comfortable and happy doing, and stick to that.
What do you wish you knew earlier in the journey that you've realized now?
Early in the journey, I think so. Some of those key components of just like, there's not a one size fits all. You don't just leave the relationship and the next day you're healed, right? You're, it's challenging, but it's so rewarding and so beautiful to learn yourself and discover what are those things you love about yourself. Um, yeah, for me, that's just take my time, right? Like that was the thing. When I left that relationship, I was 21. And so you have all of that 21-year-old angst, right? And just knowing, slow down. You will not have life figured out at 21 years old. Promise you, you will not. um, but just take care of yourself.
And so, looking ahead to the future, what's a big dream that you have for yourself in your future? And how do your experiences healing from and going through the abusive relationship fuel your fire for making that dream a reality?
Dreams. I have so many. um, I think for me was really understanding and knowing that I was worthy of love and worthy. Like I'm a parent now, and that's not everyone's goal or dream. That certainly wasn't mine at 21. But I'm in a healthy, successful marriage, and just to love my son, and to watch him grow and to be able to pour into him and share some of these experiences. I promise you, I'm very transparent in that way, where I've been able to have these conversations with younger siblings, younger cousins, older sibling, not older siblings, older cousins, older relatives within my family, and to just make an impact. So my dream is to be able to continue to healthily give and make an impact. So, and I think I've been successful in that. So I'm excited to see where this continues to take me.
Yeah, you have definitely made a big impact on a lot of people's lives, both in your, I'm sure, in your personal network, and then especially through the advocacy work that you've done. So before we wrap up, do you have a final word of inspiration or message that you'd like to share with other survivors?
Um, I mean, I'm not too big into quotes, but I would definitely say, really take time to discover yourself. Um, when you're in an abusive relationship, so much of you um, becomes enmeshed in a part of the abusive relationship and what that abusive person wanted you to be. And so you lose sight of what you could be. Take time to sit down and reflect, write out some goals, write out some things you no longer like to do, um, and just really, really, really learn yourself. And that's all I can say is like discover things about yourself that you never knew, whether it's a talent you never knew you had. Um, Try to find ways to find your voice back. That's the biggest piece. Find your voice.
That's such a powerful message. I think that so many people, as you said, when they're in an abusive relationship, they really lose touch with a sense of who they are and what they like and maybe what they're capable of. And you and your journey are such an inspiring example of how important that healing process can be and just how much of an impact you can have on others through that process. So thank you so much for being part of this interview. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I don't know. I think we've covered a gamut of topics. I mean, I'm just thankful. Thank you, Christine, for reaching out to me and having me participate in this. So I really appreciate being able to share my voice and story. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You deserve more thanks here, but I'm grateful for you being part of this, and thankful for your kind words too. So so thanks so much again for being part of this interview, and thanks to those of you who are watching and checking it out, and stay tuned to See the Triumph, where we'll have another Survivors Triumphing video to share with you again soon. Thanks a lot.